unless you've got a friendship with God, you're doomed, aren't you? You know, like there is nothing. All the religion and all the knowing, all the textbooks, and it's all dust really, it's all smoke and mirrors. But if you can wake up in the morning and go, can we do life, can we do another day together? I think that's a great place to start.
The Profile with Premier Christianity magazine.
Hello and welcome to The Profile here on Premier Christian Radio. My name is Sam Hales. I'm the editor of Premier Christianity magazine. That's the magazine that sponsors this show. And our guest today on The Profile is Martin Smith. Martin was the frontman of arguably the most successful British worship band ever, Delirious, whose career came to an end good 12 years ago now, but since then Martin Smith has carried on writing music, and in the past few days he's brought out a brand new album. It's called Dancing in the Fire. That's also the name of one of the singles, on top of Trouble, which features the Kingdom Choir and loads of other great music on that album. And so what we wanted to do was sit down with Martin to talk about the new record, talk about his past history with Delirious, and also talk about what the future holds. And it turned out that really this time of pandemic has had quite a profound effect on the singer, on his life, his family life, his church, his thinking, and you're going to hear all of that in today's interview. This was recorded at Martin Smith's home not too long ago. You will hear some clicking in the background, and that is our photographer for Premier Christianity taking some wonderful images of Martin, which we printed on the front cover and inside the latest issue of Premier Christianity magazine. So forgive the background noise, that's what was happening. If you do want to read this interview, you can do that in the latest edition and also online at our website, premierchristianity.com, to see the photos and read this interview. But without any further ado, let's have a listen in. This is my conversation with Martin Smith. Martin Smith, how are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you, Sam. Thanks for spending the time together, it's great.
Thanks for inviting us to your home. After 18 months of doing interviews over Zoom, it's just lovely to see you face to face.
I know, it really is strange, isn't it? I mean, now you can't... Yeah, there was a time, wasn't there, you couldn't imagine going out without a mask. And now I've been to a couple of shows already where no one's bothering, and trains and things, so yeah, maybe the world is changing back again.
And congratulations on becoming a granddad.
I know, it's the funniest thing, isn't it? Apparently, my name at the moment is Pops.
Okay.
It could change in time, but that's my name for now, so I'm very proud of that. And proud of, it's amazing when you see your own daughter go through that and give birth, and they're such brilliant parents, her and Tom. And so, yes, it's incredible, yeah. I haven't quite... got completely used to it yet, because we got our own children still living at home, and it's all happening.
Do you feel old enough to be a granddad?
If I'm on a 15k run, I definitely would say yes. But otherwise, in general, but it's amazing how music, it just keeps you young. I don't know what it is. About it, but it's like a river running through your veins, isn't it? And just years of playing music, and the love of that, the affection of music, and the power of it, and the joy it brings, I think is definitely an antidote for growing old. Yeah.
I love that you say music keeps you young, because I think some people might not necessarily expect that and might think, but as you get older, you might not be listening to what's on the charts anymore. But that's not you. You seem to be someone who is quite keen on what the cutting edge of music is, and keep kind of not keeping up with that, but you're genuinely interested in that.
Well, I am a music fan, and I think it helped that I had a job in music early on. I was part of a recording studio in Eastbourne, and I very quickly became exposed to so many different styles of music, from local punk bands to opera singers to Graham Kendrick coming in doing a worship record, to choirs, to kids. I mean, you name it. It was, I was exposed to so many different things. So my love and appreciation of music in general began then. and that has always grown in me. So yeah, people would be surprised that I would really love Dua Lipa or Kanye or Chance the Rapper or some classical music that I'm into, or acoustic thing. So yes, I do have a wide appreciation, but really it's my own. I reckon what happens is when your kids become teenagers, suddenly there's this massive influx of new music into the house, and where your own style sort of starts to wane a bit, and I'm still listening to U2 and Foo Fighters and all this sort of stuff, they're bringing in all this new stuff. And I think that's brilliant.
So it's the kids are keeping you young as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've had a few, so it keeps on going.
I wanted to talk to you just very quickly about parenting, because I appreciate that Instagram is the highlight reel of all of our lives, right? Instagram is where we kind of put the highlights. Even so, from a quick look at your Instagram and your kids and stuff, you do genuinely look like just a very happy, joyful, fun-filled family. Is that the reality, or is that just the Instagram? Yeah.
Of course, like we never argue, we never fall out. There's never any disagreements. Never any. No, in some ways, we're pretty normal. But actually, yeah, we do have a lot of fun. We're extremely blessed to have a culture here, and I think that comes from my wife Anna. She's extremely present. She's a great mum. She's given her life to bring up the kids, and never been distracted by that. I need to write a third book, and all those things are amazing. But she has just, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to do it really well. So. I think that she's been the steadying force in our family. She's always been fun, always been in the moment, always encouraged conversation around the table. And we do have a rule in our house that there's nothing that can't be talked about. And then we've decided as parents we have to pretend not to be shocked.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the two things. Right. Remember.
Yeah.
When our kids start talking, just pretend you're not shocked. All right. And I think that's been a good culture in our house, that look, come on, let's just keep talking.
Yeah, that's great. What does the average day look like for you? You've already been for a run this morning, and you've just made me a lovely coffee. So aside from that, what does the average morning look like?
And then I do an interview for 2 hours, and have some photos, and it's just an average day, and then I'll hit a cafe. My usual day is doing the school run generally, and then I've got a couple of options. I can run on the seafront, or I can run in the hills, and I do try and do that most days when I'm at home, and I feel that's sort of an ongoing thing for me that helps me. And then when I'm at home, there's all sorts of meetings and things to do. Phone calls and planning a trip, or seeing people. So I find now, being that bit older, I'm starting to be a bit kinder to myself in terms of my time, and not ram my whole day full of stuff. So I'm trying to have a little bit more bandwidth in the day to even to respond to people that need to see you, or hang out with people. Those things just become so much more important, don't they?
Yeah. And was that a sort of conscious decision that you reached a moment of thinking, actually, I need to put less into my day?
Yeah, I think it was. I've been very focused over the years, and very intent on, right, this is the next thing, and then that happens, and then there's the next thing. So I've always had a strong work ethic, which has come from my family, and but then of course that goes on and on and on, doesn't it? You never reach a point of thinking, oh great, that's good, I've done it.
Yeah.
Especially with music, because it's just an ever-flowing river. There's always another song, there's another project, there's another co-write with someone. Oh, we're going to do another gig and it's going to be amazing. So I think I've had to train myself intentionally to slow down a bit, and enjoy my life, and enjoy going paddleboarding and swimming, and to see those things as not a waste of time, but actually they're just part of of me being a friend of God, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. So let's chat about the new project, Dancing in the Fire.
Yeah.
Album coming out, and that's the first single as well. So let's start with the kind of context for this, because as I understand it, this is a bit of a lockdown album. The genesis for this came out of COVID, so just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was on the road in America at the time, and I think it was kind of like March the 8th-ish, and I came home. There was a break in the tour, and I had 3 days here, and then I was going to fly back out. And the morning I was just about to jump in a cab to go to Heathrow, and the American tour guy said that don't bother coming. It's all been cancelled. And I remember sitting, in fact, down here on my own. Everyone was fast asleep. It was 5 a.m, thinking, "Oh, I think life's about to change." And it was just like a switch flicked. And for some reason, I just knew in my heart that this was not going to go away quickly. And then began the season that everyone entered. And it's been the longest time that we've had in our married life, being together in 27 years in one stretch. I mean, and it's been amazing. I've had the odd stuff that everyone's had to cope with about living in the same space and trying to make music and work, and I think you want me to go away now, don't you? But in general, for us, it's been a gift, and I think that because I've travelled for so many years, the whole of our marriage, that there's been, every month there's been something. My bag is always half packed. Yeah. And I think that's been hard in some respects. And I think that the more we decompressed into the pandemic, I think we realised, wow, we've done all right to survive that, by the grace of God, really. And I think it's actually been an amazing time for us to have some conversations together that we probably were overdue. And I think that has been amazing. So with the songs, I think that's the context, is being at home more, being incredibly grateful for my family, and writing out of a sense of uncertainty, anxiousness, bit of fear. All my work got cancelled, just like obliterated, and like, oh, what is going on? Yeah. So songs like Trouble, were it wasn't just a sort of, I need to write a song for a record that's going to sort of encourage people to sing their way out of trouble. There were some moments when I was in my little room at the back, and there was a lot of fear, a lot of tears, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of panic, all the things as a Christian you're not supposed to feel, but aware of complete humanness, and being full of all these emotions, thinking, okay, right, I need to write a song about this. And actually it wasn't even that, I need to write a record. It actually came quite naturally, and I had the time to focus. I wasn't on the road. I could live inside them more, and before I knew it, there were a bunch of songs, and I was like, really like to record this. Yeah.
So just tell me a bit more about that sense of helplessness, because people might wonder, where does that come from? Is that because your whole life and career and ministry, it has been very centered, as you say, on touring, and so was it just in a moment, it seems like this thing that gives me life and that is my livelihood and that I enjoy is not just on pause but cancelled for I don't even know how long. Was that the helplessness, or was there more to it as well?
Yes, there's a little bit of identity in there of all this. This is what I do. Yeah. And this is what I have done for so many years, and suddenly that's taken away. And then who am I? Yeah. Like, I'm just the guy at home that's mowing the lawn. and going for walks, and for a little bit there was a sort of I don't know what to do without being on a stage and doing all the magic tricks.
Yeah.
When I mean magic tricks, I mean that in a sincere way. It's like God anoints you and has called me to do that, but of course the public nature of that is that you learn things along the way that how to make a service great, or how to string songs together, and I think all that's good. That's not a bad thing. But sometimes you realise when something stops, it's like, there's a bit of an over-reliance on that.
Yeah. And
I've been running so hard all these years. You have to question, is it the songs that are making all this happen? Or, where's my trust in all of this, and who do I trust? And, do I like being in control? So I think they're the things I've been learning, and realising that, I'm actually a human being. I'm not actually a spiritual, musical, worship leading robot.
Yeah.
I'm actually a person, so I think it's been great. I've been tending to that side. I mean, you can say, wow, that's a bit late for being 51, but that's how it is sometimes. And I think that there were some scares in there. There were some quite high profile incidences in our scene of preachers falling and getting into trouble, and some of those were my friends, and I think that all played into this sort of post evangelical rock star Christendom notion that you can be a demigod. And I think that that's complete nonsense. And I think if we've learned anything during this time, we've realised that is nonsense, and that we're actually human beings. And I think it's right that we recognise that, because we're skin and bone, we come from dust, we end up as dust. We try to serve God with everything we have. We give him our lives, and I love all of that. But we aren't an angel. We're not halfway. And I think that's been a great revelation to me, that the more I can keep in my place in a lowly, actually the more my revelation of God is huge. And I want to stay in that place of like, he's the one that's amazing. Yeah. He is almighty, he is majestic, he's all knowing. I'm just the guy from Littlehampton, and along the way I'm trying to use all I have to give glory to him, but that's probably about it, really.
How do you deal with that when, as you say, you got friends who are having quote unquote falls from grace and bad news in the church world? How do you not become cynical of church and even God when there's all that going on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think on a bad day you can become cynical. I think, oh my goodness, like what am I involved in? And all the way back to, actually, do I even believe this anymore? This is tragic what's happening, and actually, again, being human, it's okay to have those thoughts in the morning, but by the end of the day, you then need to remind yourself of all the hope and all the amazing things that God has done in history, and I'm a part of that miracle. The fact that he knew where I was as a child in a completely different culture, church back, and he found me and pulled me into what I'm doing now. It is a miracle to me. So I'm reminded of all of that, and of course, unless you've got a friendship with God, unless you have you're doomed, aren't you? You know, like there is nothing. All the religion and all the knowing, all the textbooks, and it's all dust really, it's all smoke and mirrors. But if you can wake up in the morning and go, you know, hi, you know, can we do life, can we do another day together? I think that's a great place to start. And then you go to bed in peace, don't you? And you try and keep your hands clean and keep life simple and do the right stuff, stay out of trouble. And I think that's probably always been, you know, how I've approached life, to be honest.
Yeah. And it seems from what you're saying that the line that you wrote, "I'm going to sing my way out of trouble," it happened. I mean, listening to the album, I'm like, this is not a kind of cynical, doubting, dark album. This is actually quite a faith-filled, we're going to be okay, God's bringing me through this. That was the vibe I was getting.
Wow, that's really encouraging. I think as well, because I felt like I was being rebuilt during the time. I felt the kindness of God, you know, because I was experiencing the same thing everyone else was feeling, and as I say, you know, without the ability to turn on the bright lights and the smoke machine and do what I do, and people love it and get affirmation and Martin's done another night, it's incredible. You know, if you take all that away for a year and a half, you have to do a lot of soul searching and a lot of confrontation, looking in the mirror and going, well, do I sort of like who I've become over the years? Am I a good husband? Am I a decent dad? Am I a good friend to people? How often do I call my mum? You know, all these things sound incredibly basic, but I think I've had a season of that, and trying to sort of put some better foundations in for the next season. And as things are opening up, and I've had the joy of, you know, playing music and leading and making this record, I do feel incredibly childlike again. Like it feels like the first time, and I think there's a little bit of that in the record as well. There's a joy in there that you can hear a bunch of musicians in a studio. It's like the first time. Yeah.
The other line that struck me was, "I nearly died, the devil tried." that hit me. I was like, okay, what's happened here, Martin? That's strong.
I nearly died, the devil tried. But I'm living with your mercy on my life.
Well, I mean, some of it's autobiographical, isn't it? And some of it is you're trying to invite people into the feeling of a song, which, look, this has happened to all of us, and actually, by the grace of God, if you're still here, you're still here. You know? None of us had the right to or the golden ticket to escape it.
Yeah.
And we've all known loved ones that have been hit hard by COVID and been sick or even died, and so I think it was a general line, but also a tip to the iron lung experience when I was a kid, and you know, in an iron lung when I was 6 months old. So there's some threads in there that I'm sort of carrying through, but yeah, and it's the story of the guys in the fiery furnace. You know, they nearly died. The devil tried. You know, so there's a play on all of it.
There's a lot going on there, and I like what you say there about COVID, because I remember in the early days of the pandemic, even, you know, we were publishing some stuff from Christian leaders that was sort of gently pointing out, hey guys, you know, COVID's quite serious, and even if you pray the right psalm over yourself and your family, that's not necessarily going to protect you.
Yeah.
You know, church was grappling with some big issues there, weren't we?
Yeah, and there's been friends of mine in high-profile ministries and big preachers, you know, that we've all been affected, you know, and yeah, it's just one of those things that everyone's experienced, and not often you can say the whole world goes through something at the same time, and I think that's what's totally unique about it. There's a common thread now in humanity where hopefully we're emerging, possibly a little bit more humble, a little less demigod-like, if I can say that, realising we're human, and hopefully that could lead to a place where we realise that God is all-knowing and He is God.
Yeah.
You can't challenge that.
Yeah. It sounds like COVID's changed you.
Does it? Well, I think it has to, doesn't it? I think that, as I said, you know, for me, it possibly might have been in some of the more simple things, like getting to the 9th Saturday in a row and I've not been away, and it's Strictly Come Dancing and I'm actually watching them. You know, for the first time in my life, I'm watching Saturday night TV with fish and chips or whatever. And to me, that was huge.
Yeah.
That was absolutely massive.
Yeah.
That I could. It got to Friday and my kids weren't expecting me to be away. Now, I wasn't away every weekend. I think there's always been a good balance in our life. However, there's always been this culture of chaos in our household, where Dad's away or he's coming back, and then we squeeze everything in, and then it's, you know, and we've had some brilliant times where we've been away as a family because of my job. So, you know, I would say overall it's been fantastic, but yes, I've been able to really enjoy and rest in the more simple things. As I said, like my daughter Ruby and me, we've been swimming in the sea, you know, and like getting freezing cold and like screaming and thinking, what on earth are we doing? So other people might think, well, that's a bit boring, or that's not that significant, but for me that's been really significant. To kind of be involved in my town a bit more and be involved in nature. Yeah.
It was great to hear a Coldplay cover.
Yes.
Everyday Life.
Yeah, I'm really excited about people hearing that. I don't think they'd see that coming.
No, I didn't.
All right. Well, when you listen to the lyrics, I mean, I don't think there's a better song for this time. And there's so much in that lyric, you know, am I the future or the history? I'm sure everybody's asked themselves that question. You know, annoyingly, it's probably the best song on the record. It's like, oh, okay, Chris, you know.
Am I right in saying you have a connection to Chris Martin, or you grew up in the same place? Or?
No, there's an urban myth.
Okay.
That, well, I think it's true that Delirious were playing in Exeter years and years ago, right at the beginning. I think it was Exeter University, and apparently he was there.
Oh, okay.
Because he lived in Exeter,
right.
I think he was 16 at the time or something. And then I've also heard that he really loves the King of Fools record, and apparently that was an influence on him. Which, who knows? But I did have met him, but it was very brief and very uneventful. So, but you never know what happens in the future, and I would love to write with him and ask him some questions. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a great version. I'm really proud of the version, and there's a beautiful singer on it called Victory Boyd, who's from New York, and miraculously we connected, and so yeah, I'm really proud of how that's turned out.
Tell me a bit about Victory, because I think that'd be a new name for a lot of people. I was listening to it, I thought, wow, fantastic voice. I don't know who this voice belongs to, but it sounded great.
Yeah, she's I think a very special, unique person. I think she's one of 9 children, grew up in Detroit with her family, singing on the streets, and radical sort of churchy Christian family, all about evangelism. And she ends up getting signed by Jay-Z, to Rock Nation. And I listened to that first record. In fact, Anna got me into that record, and I was really intrigued by it. And amazingly, I reached out to her and we connected, and I said, well, what about this song? Do you want to sing on it? And so she sang in New York in her apartment, and I was here, and it was on FaceTime, and we've never actually met. And so that's been fantastic. But a very special voice, and she's actually been in the news recently because she was supposed to sing at the halftime on the NFL first game, and she didn't want to be vaccinated.
Okay.
And so there's been this big thing about, and she lost that job. They wouldn't let her in the stadium because she wasn't vaccinated. So that's another interview.
Yes,
Victory Boyd, and I couldn't say enough great things about her. She's a very special person. Yeah.
So much is shallow these days. Pictures, but not words. Texts that seem impersonal. Tweets rather than conversation. It can leave us all feeling rather empty. At Premier Christianity, we go deeper to bring you a thought-provoking and credible mix of theological articles, biblical interpretation, interviews, debates, and trends. Premier Christianity, online, in print, in depth. Subscribe today at premierchristianity.com.
You mentioned in passing that you love to write with Chris Martin. Do you have a sort of mental list of, I want to co-write with these people? Because you do have a track record of collaborating with a lot of different people. And I think one of the things that I've always appreciated is it's not like, oh, well, Martin will only work with you if you're a Christian and you're into worship. You work with people as broadly as you can, it seems to me. So is there a mental list of, I want to co-write with that person, or I want to do something with them?
Well, yes. Now you ask. And if you're reading this, I think, I'd love to write with Brandon Flowers, the Killers frontman. I mean, Adele would be fantastic. Chris Martin, of course. Stormzy would be, a day with him would be, I think I could retire after that, after a day with Stormzy. And try and understand what he wants to do next. Where do you want to go? Do you want, more vibe from your grime scene, or do you want more melody? It'd just be fun to ask all those questions. So I think because I know for myself the gift of writing and music. I can't estimate this. I can't stress this enough that it is a gift. I've done nothing to deserve this, and so I have a lot of grace for other people that are maybe on a slightly different faith journey, but I can identify with that thing of, again, we're all human, and God gives us gifts, and I really appreciate the gifts that other people are carrying, and I'm a fan. Yeah.
So coming back to the album, I want to chat about a few tracks. Fire in Your Eyes.
Yeah.
Tell me about the story behind that.
Okay, that line came from a friend of mine, Nick Herbert, who's at Gas Street in Birmingham. And I've written a lot of songs with Nick over the years, and he was actually the guy that had the God's Great Dance Floor riff.
Okay.
So that's Nick's fault. And he brought that chorus, I see fire in your eyes, we just jumped on it, and I think that's going to go off in the right setting.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about that, but it's going to be loud and proud.
I lift my eyes to see you here with me again.
so eager to get back to that lifestyle. Even after all we've said about the lessons learned and what God's been doing in your life through lockdown, there must still be this real eagerness to let's get back in the club or wherever.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing I've learned is that you can't be sort of over spiritual about, like you take music out of my life and I'm totally secure in who I am, and like I don't need that to make me the person I am. That's not true.
Yeah.
And you'd be foolish to suggest that, if you take journalism away from you, or photography away from a photographer, we are the people who we are because that's what we love. And I have a sense that if you think of God as being a great dad, which the opening line of the Lord's Prayer is Our Father, which fascinates me. It's not it could have been anything, couldn't it? Our King, our, ruler, our healer. No, it's Our Father. So I get the feeling as I go on in life that actually God delights in, he loves what I like. So if I love being on a stage and singing, then I think he probably likes that too.
Yeah.
And he likes that about me.
Yeah.
So if I'm not doing that, he's probably a bit sad for me.
Yeah.
So I think what I feel now is that my connection with God isn't just sort of, sitting in a field and gazing at the stars, however wonderful that is, or getting freezing in the sea. It is through what I'm made to do. And that is how I connect. This might sound a terrible admission, but I'm actually a really lousy prayer, like in terms of switching everything off and right, I've got my list. I'm a fidget, I can't, and I'm not very good at that. But if you put music behind me, I can pray for 3 hours straight. It's just that I'm singing it.
Yeah.
So that's what I take delight in. And so I think, yes, I've realised that you can't separate all these things. We are the people that we are. And as long as we keep that in balance, I think God takes great joy in seeing us do the things we love.
One of the songs I know you're excited about, and speaking to your producer was very excited about as well, is Eyes Are On You.
Yeah.
So, and that line of, when we don't really know what to do,
yeah,
we just put our eyes on Jesus.
Yeah.
So again, did that come out of the context of lockdown and feeling a bit lost? Is that where that song began?
Yeah, someone sent me that scripture from 2 Chronicles 20, and of course it's the story of King Jehoshaphat, and he's sensing that he's going to lose the battle, and it's all going bad, and but then he as is with many stories throughout the Bible, there's that moment of revelation of, okay, well, if we can only look up and focus and trust that God will deliver us. And of course that sentiment never gets old, does it? That's for now, it's for us, for every day. It's in every decision. If only I can look up and trust, then I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So that line is stolen from that scripture. We don't know what to do, but our eyes are on you.
When danger comes upon us, we will call upon your name. We don't know what to do, but our eyes are on you. We don't know what to do, but our eyes are on you.
And then of course the story goes on. Always it leads to celebration, victory, people singing together. Then it leads to that line, I give thanks to the Lord for his love endures forever. I think there's a great connection with sort of coming out of pain, coming out of despair, and singing together, which sounds incredibly simple, but I think if you take the singing together thing away from communities, you can see how sad people get.
Yeah.
So we've had a season of no live music, no theatre, no opera, no clubbing, no clubs are shut, no dancing together, people going wild. If you take that out of culture, it's amazing how much depression comes in and sadness. And I think we've all felt that. And yesterday I was at church leading. Honestly, it's incredibly emotional when people start singing together. And that's not unique to the Christian church, but I think it could be at a Coldplay gig. There's something about when people lift their voices, and it's like, I think we were made to do that. And that is the sound of victory, I think. And yesterday it was spine tingling hearing people do that, and you can feel people sort of filled with hope, and so I love all that, and I've given my life to that.
I mean, that leads to a pretty massive question in my mind about church and online church.
Yeah.
Because if you and I are agreed, which I think we are, which is singing in person is way better than singing at your laptop screen on a Sunday morning, does that mean some of the excitement around online church might be a bit of a COVID fad, if I could put it that way? That actually there is this eagerness amongst all of us, not just Christians, but there is an eagerness amongst Christians to get back to being in the room and singing together. And you can try as hard as you like, you can never quite replicate that online.
I think you said it, yeah. I mean, if I'm away the other side of the world and I FaceTime one of my kids, it's actually a brilliant functional experience. I can talk to them, I can see them, we can share emotion, it works, it's better than not doing it, but I'm actually not with them, and nothing can replace that. Nothing can replace being with someone in a room, or being in a room with 200 people, 500 people, community. And I think that's what we were robbed of. And I think we're now starting to slowly be reminded of, that was actually really great, wasn't it? When we were able to be together and sing and eat together and cry together and pray together, and all these things that we took for granted. So I think the online thing is great. It serves a function. I think globally it opens doors for many people and for a message to go out into places where you can't physically go. But what's so bad about 50 people meeting in your house and singing? Okay, it's not 1,000 people but that's all right. I think it's just as important, and maybe small is good.
A couple of months ago now, you and I had a coffee, and we were talking about doing this interview, and you said something really interesting. I thought I must ask Martin about that.
Oh no!
You said, I'd love to sit down and do an interview with you, Sam, because I've never really had the chance to explain myself. And you were talking about it in the context of, I think, talking to Christians, talking to the church, just talking to the Christian world, to explain myself. I thought, what does Martin feel needs explaining?
Oh, that sounds very insecure, doesn't it? Well, I mean, I've always done different things, and I've always created confusion, I think.
Really?
Well, it's never been, to use a cricket analogy, I don't think it's ever been a straight bat down the middle. You know what I mean? You have those players, don't you, which they're gonna score 75 runs every time, because they're never gonna just suddenly like step outside and like whack. It's like measured. And I think that because I've been a music fan and always turned on by other influences and stuff, I think I've always been keen to follow my heart in that instance, and also I've sort of hated the sense of being constrained within a Sunday morning bubble, and I think that's maybe where I'm saying, like, I'd love to explain myself, because I'm a fan of all of that. I love church. I've given my life to it. I've always been in it. We brought our children up in it. I have a high value on that. I don't think you can do without it. But I've always fought against the religious side of it has to be a certain way, and I think that I've in a sort of a good way rallied against that all my life, of like, guys, we have to remind ourselves that it's us that set the style. I don't think God has like suddenly said, what I really like is drums, bass, soft electric, and a certain song that I don't think God has ever commented on. This is sort of my secret like style for you. And you've only got to travel around the nations to know that notion is not plausible. It's only in our white middle class churches that we seem to believe that might be true. So that annoys me, and also I want to always stand up for those musicians that I know are slightly on the fringes and that are a bit quirky, but they're carrying such fire in their bellies, and I want to celebrate those people and applaud them and say that there's room at the table for everybody. I think that's really what my mission in life has been, is that everybody's welcome around the table, especially creatively. And actually church could be extraordinary if we embraced that, rather than thinking, we'll do what our people want. But of course that never lasts.
So is it that you want to sort of undermine some of those assumptions about, well, this is a song that's for a Sunday, this is a congregational worship song, and are you just coming along and sort of asking questions and saying, but why are we assuming that a song has to be like that or sound like that or have those certain lyrics in order to be congregational? Why not sing something a bit from that field?
Well, I'm not saying that we don't need proper congregational songs. I mean, my friend Matt wrote 10,000 Reasons. I actually happen to think that's possibly the greatest congregational song of the last 10 years. And maybe more. I think it's an extraordinary song. And when it's extraordinary when you hear it in different settings. You hear it at a wedding or a funeral or in church, or it's extraordinary. So thanks to Matt and people like that, we have those hymns that are the sort of bedrock of what we call church. But you have to also keep one eye on the future of what teenage kids are bringing through. And that would be my heart. It's not that one is better than the other. It's that it would be foolish not to think that it's going to look different in 20 years. And so always keep the door open for that, rather than this sense of, I think we've got it down now, we've learned how to do it.
I think you're right. As over time music changes, doesn't it, and culture changes, but I might agree with you that in 20 years' time it should sound very different, but isn't there a bigger problem than that? It's not just that we've got to allow room for new styles, it's that we've got to allow room for new young people. And isn't the issue actually that the church is not attracting or bringing in hardly any young people? I mean, if you look at the trends on youth and children's work, it's dire. I mean, some people are predicting that if current trends continue in about 30 or 40 years' time, there'll be no young people in the church. Now, obviously, that's not allowing for God and for revival but is there not a bigger problem here that the church is not actually bringing young people in so they can make the music that would then move us on?
Yeah, I mean, that could be right. I think that if you go even more basic than that, kids only grow where they're loved. And whether they play guitar or paint or a computer programmer or a FIFA games whatever they do, they're only going to give all of who they are if they feel they're loved in that environment, or they're appreciated or welcome. Even that they're welcome, shame on us, you know? Or the feeling that, well, you're half welcome but you're not quite ready yet for what we're doing. Shame on us, you know? So I think that's the first thing, is family. Is if you haven't got a culture of family in your church, you're absolutely shot. You know, like, what's the point of doing anything if you haven't got that sense of we're together, and, you know, okay, you're a bit, you know, bit left the field and I don't quite get exactly what you're doing, but you're welcome around our table. Yeah. So, and of course that's a wide conversation.
Yeah,
you know, but I think if you can't have that,
yeah,
you're never going to get their creativity.
Yeah.
Because what happens is they will hold it from you. Mm. They will not share it. It's too precious. They won't bring it, and then suddenly you'll find all this amazing creativity in art and photographs and sculptures and movie scripts, and all this incredible stuff is happening, but it's happening in the shadows rather than in our family. Mm. That really upsets me. Mm. And yeah, you know, that has to change.
Mm. Yeah. You spoke a moment ago about not wanting to feel constrained, and I've heard you say that before in the context of Army of Bones. I mean, you effectively thought, I don't want to be constrained by what does and doesn't work on a Sunday. I just want to make music. Let's form a new band. Let's write. Let's release something. You did that with Army of Bones. I think you just played a festival.
Yeah, we did. We did. Yeah.
So it's still going, the band.
Yeah, and actually, those moments where I get to play in a different context, which is outside the church, and people are standing in the crowd with a beer and heckling you, and I actually really enjoy that, because it keeps me human. It keeps me sort of real about the whole thing somehow. So yeah, I do embrace those opportunities, and that record, the Army of Bones record, actually, and I may have never said this, it's actually really a love letter to Anna. You know, it's a 25 years we've been married love letter to her, and all the doubts and the oh my goodness, we've done all right to be here, you know. It's by the grace of God, and sort of the worries and the things you could never really talk about, but it's all in that record if you've got ears to listen. I mean, there's even a song called Do You Love Me? So for someone like me that is a shiny, got it all together worship leader in the post-evangelical modern aren't we all amazing church, it was important for me to say that, because I'm also a leader, and whoever's listening to me, I don't want them to think it's all going to be everything's going to be that version of their life. It takes hard work to stay in friendships and relationships. It takes a lot of good decision making, and that is the grit of life. You know, if you want to stay married, you've got to commit yourself to it, and you've got to do the honourable thing, and you've got to stay in the game. So that's not the average thing I can talk about in the third song in on a Sunday morning, because that is not the context for that. Yeah. But as a leader, if I don't talk about the whole picture of my life, and I call it the whole gospel, I'm robbing my children's generation of the true story. And so I'm willing to sacrifice what it looks like, or holding face, or for the bigger prize, if that makes sense. And maybe that's the thing that connects me to them, and I appreciate that.
You said that your dream is to sing Everybody's Broken at Glastonbury.
Yes.
Which I would love to see, and if it happens, I promise you I will be in the front row. What else is on your bucket list?
Maybe I haven't got any more dreams than that. Maybe that's it.
I mean, that's a good enough one. We could probably leave it at that.
Yeah,
Keep you happy, wouldn't it?
I mean, Ezekiel 37, the dry bones. That is my favourite story of all time in the whole thousands of stories in the Bible. The fact that things are dead and actually buried in the ground, but still the breath of God, the breath of a living God, can come along and do something that revives those bones, and then more than that, stands them up and they become an army. I mean, what a story. So yeah, I think that's been the story of my life, and if I could sing that over a lost generation that probably don't feel that, or feel like, well, this is my lot, I am dead and buried, and that's kind of where I'm at, then that'll be incredible. So we'll see. Wherever you are, Emily Evis, please, I'm begging.
I want to talk about Common Song. This is something new, isn't it?
Yeah.
And tell me a bit about the genesis of this one and how it relates to football, of all things.
No, that's a thing that people wouldn't know. I'm actually a really big football fan nut. We've got 2 season tickets at Brighton. We love that. And then strangely, through a school event, I met one of the Brighton players, and he was actually the captain of Brighton, a guy called Bruno Salter, a Spanish guy. And we ended up having coffee together, and we've remained friends, and that's been actually an amazing thing. A really incredible guy. Anyway, he was telling me about a thing that he's involved in called Common Goal. And basically it's all the Premier League football players are able to donate 1% of their salary into this pot, which basically is a football can save the world thing, where they're going and doing street projects all over the world with football, building football pitches, training, amazing. So Bruno does this himself, he puts 1% of his salary into this, and it's very inspiring. While he was talking to me, I was like, that's a really great idea. What if I got all the songwriters together and we all gave 1% of our songwriting income into this pot, and we'll call it not Common Goal, we'll call it Common Song. And we are gonna help kids that there's no way they can afford to make music, or they're not in the context, they're not at a school that's got a violin, or they're not, it's about putting education back into the mainstream, the arts back into mainstream education, giving kids a chance to make music. And I think that we've discovered during the pandemic, if you take art out of culture, people get sad. They don't know they're getting sad, or even the reason why they're getting sad. But I can say absolutely it's because art disappeared. The joy of music, the joy of going to an art gallery, to going to an opera, going to a club, whatever it is. And so even from an economic point of view or a social point, you can argue that you have to have art and creativity at the core of family life and culture and society. So I would hope that Common Song could help in a small way to rectify that. And so, as we're speaking, I'm talking to lots of songwriters around the world who are already thinking, great idea, let's get our heads together, and as the months go on, this is all going to be unveiled. So great.
So in about a year's time, I'll better interview a worship leader and drill them on whether they've signed up their 1% or not.
Yeah, come on, mate, did you? And why not? And
why not?
You can slap them on the hand and say, come on.
So, we are wrapping up. A job of a journalist is to ask the questions the audience are asking. You know where this is going. You know where this is going. You must do.
Please.
Now, I know what your answer is to this question, but I have to ask it anyway. Delirious reunion. What's going on?
Well, it's been 11 years now, I think, and there isn't a reason why it couldn't happen. It's just more whether that's what we want to do, and is that the right thing. I don't think it would be, you know, I don't think there will be a sense of, oh, we're going to get the band back together and we're going to, you know, we're going to start climbing the ladder again and like getting back to playing big venues. I don't think there will be a notion of that. I think it would be more like, hey, should we just do this as friends? Like, what and why not? Like,
just for fun.
Just for fun. Why don't we do this and then see where this goes? So I wouldn't rule it out. Stu and I have started. We did some recordings together recently for the Glowworks TV thing that I started, and people have loved that, seeing us do some of the older Delirious songs in a more an acoustic way. You know, there's a deep love for each other, and I think watch this space.
Yeah. So I knew you'd say that you aren't ruling it out, but can I get you to rule it in? Can I get you to say it's a question of when rather than if?
Well, again, Glastonbury, if you're listening. Yeah, I mean, it would take actually a lot of work to, I mean, you know, sort of learn everything again, and like, but yeah. Oh, what can I say, Sam? What can I say? You know, you've nailed me, haven't you? You've nailed me.
Someone recently went through the Delirious back catalogue and on Twitter and listened to all of the old albums and did this live tweet of what does it sound like years on.
Yeah. And
you'd be pleased to know, you know, they thought it sort of stood up to the test of time. But it did make me wonder, do you look back on the back catalogue and you think, you know how some music is kind of timeless? You know how some music you just go back to it.
Yeah.
Do you have that with a Delirious album where you think, actually I would go back to that one in particular, it just always is giving something?
Yeah, I would say maybe a fifth of it I could go back to and think, oh, I'm not ashamed of that. Well, more than that, I'm actually quite proud of that. Songs like Obsession, Mountains Tremble, there are moments you think, oh yeah, that could be today.
Yeah.
Okay, there's some production things and creative things that you would bring into a new era, you know, maybe less reverb even, or whatever it is, but actually it was a moment in time that was really great, and it stood the test of time. But the thing that I always look back and think, if only I'd known a little bit more about songwriting, or the ability to actually finish something, or the ability to know when it's not finished, or it's not ready, or we shouldn't have. I think there's always a couple of songs that shouldn't have made each record, and that's probably because they weren't finished, and that's my fault, you know, maybe Stu's as well. But you don't know that at the time so much. You're learning with each project, and now I've had the pleasure of co-writing with so many incredible people. You know, I've learned a lot in the last 10 years, and looking back, it was more instinctive. And we were a band, and like, let's just turn it up, and like, yeah, this is great, guitar riff, awesome. But if you think of the songs that have lasted, it's probably due to the quality of the song rather than, you know, than anything else.
Yeah. So for you, it's a few songs here and there, rather than a particular album.
Well, I think the King of Fools album had a touch to it because it felt like a revival record, and sonically we were cutting teeth together, we were breaking ground. There was a holy sort of two fingers up of we're just going to go for it. We're not copying it, we're just going to go for this. If this doesn't fit on American radio, doesn't matter. We're just going to do it. So I think there were I think the Mesomorphis record was a huge jump sonically because we got this guy in LA to mix it called Jack Joseph Puig, who was mixing loads of people at the time. I think we were brave in that we just kept on the pursuit of growing together, excellence.
Yeah.
You know, we were a little Christian band from Littlehampton, but we were definitely punching above our weight.
100%.
And I think only now I look back and think that. But at the time we were like, we'd be driving along in the van like, yeah, should we do that? Yeah, great. And we just convinced ourselves it was a good idea.
Love it, it's the best way. So with the new music coming out, do you get nervous about how it will be received?
No, I don't. No, I don't, because I've... how can I say this? I'm confident in it. I've worked really hard on it, drilled down into the songs, had the time and the focus to... So no, I felt in the studio it was ready.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm happy with it. But then you never know what people think of it. You have to let that go.
You let that go. You don't sit there looking at all the reviews or whatever.
Maybe for the first 2 days, but then after that you just get on with life, don't you?
Yeah.
No, I think people will enjoy it. I think there's a great mix of some Sunday morning moments that I call, and then some other things like Dancing in the Fire, and there's a beautiful song on there called Everything There Is to Know, which is a very honest song, and so I'm just excited for everyone to hear it.
Me too. Martin Smith, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Premier Christian Radio to hear my interview with Martin Smith. I'm Sam Hales, editor of Premier Christianity magazine. That's the magazine that sponsors this show. We've got a fantastic half-price subscription offer on right now. Less than £24 for a whole year. It's a half-price offer, so it's £23.96. And for that, you will get 12 issues of Premier Christianity delivered direct to your door. You'll get access behind the paywall on our website. News, reviews, features, columnists, and so much more. Subscribe now at premierchristianity.com/subscribe. That's it for this week. We'll see you same time, same place next week here on The Profile. Take care.
You've been listening to The Profile in association with Premier Christianity magazine.